Miss Rowland's friend likes going to the bike park and goes over jumps. The motion of her jump is this. The most important part about this question is the fact that x represents the time and y represents the height. For motion questions, this is normally always the case. The x variable, or the variable in the main part of the equation being manipulated, is the time, and y, normally the letter on its own, is normally the height. So the first thing you do is press the y equals, and we're going to type it into the y equals button. So we're going to press clear, and we're going to clear on the second one, and we're going to type in this function, minus 0.5 x squared plus 1.4x, and then we're going to press graph. We can see too much of the graph, way too much of the y and way too much of the x. So on the window, I'm going to change it to make it about a third of what was the original. So I've changed them from around about minus 15 and 15 to minus 5 and 5 graph. You can see a lot better now. So we need to do the different facts. Find a height after 1 second. So 1 second means that x is 1. So you can do that really easily. You could do that manually, and all you need to do is substitution. You just replace every x with 1. Y equals minus 0.5 times 1 squared, which is 1, plus 1.4. So y is simply going to be equal to 0.9. Let's assume this is in meters. So 0.9 meters after 1 second. If you didn't want to do that manually, all you need to do is go on to second trace, and we're going to look for value. This is for value of x's. We're going to put x is equal to 1, press enter, and you can see, as expected, our answer is 0.9 when x is 1. It's good to know both methods. How long does it take for a bike to reach the maximum height? Again, we can do this manually. We are going to do part B. It happens at the axes of symmetry, minus b over 2a. We have a and b. So we would do minus b, which is minus 1.4, times by 2a. So it's going to be minus 0.5 times by 2, which is minus 0.25. And then these minuses will end up cancelling each other out, and then we'd go on to the main part of the calculator, and we're just going to type 1.4 divided by 0.25, enter, 5.6. Does that sound right? Let's see if I got that right. I've realised I've made an error here. The error I've made is the 0.25. The 0.25 should not be 0.25, it should actually be minus 1. And the reason why I made that error is because I did 0.5 times 0.5 rather than 0.5 times 2. So let's have a go at this again. Minus 1.4 divided by minus 1 is just going to be 1.4. That's actually quite an easy one. 1.4. And you know the answer's got to be positive because this is to do with seconds. 1.4 seconds. If you'd like to do it on the calculator, you can as well. So we're going to go to graph. We want to find where the maximum happens. So we're going to press second calc. This time it's the maximum, not the minimum, because this is a negative parabola. To the left of the maximum you select, to the right of the parabola, and then somewhere in the middle. Our answer is going to be at 1.39999, 0.98. So you can assume, because of all the 9s afterwards, it's going to round to 1.4. So that's where we've got 1.4 seconds. How long does it take for her to hit the ground? Now, this question, again, can be done manually, but it's a bit harder to do this one manually. I'll show you. When it hits the ground, we're going to say that y is equal to 0. So we just set the whole thing equal to 0. Minus 0.5 x squared plus 1.4x. and then we just solve this equation. Because this is negative, I'm going to put it to the other side of the equation. 0.5 x squared equals 1.4x. Basically, we want the x's to be positive. Now, there's x squared on this side and x on this side, so we're going to cancel one x from each side. So we've got 0.5x equals 1.4, so x is going to be equal to 1.4 divided by 0.5. How many halves go into 1.4? Let's have a look. That's going to be the same as how many ones go into 2.8, so actually the answer is going to be 2.8. That lines up with what we think, so the maximum was at 1.4 and then it finishes at 2.8. And this actually makes sense because it's symmetrical and it starts at 0. So if this is 1.4, which it is, we're going to expect this to be 2.8. Now to do it on the calculator, very similar. Second calc, and this time we want a 0. This is when we have y is 0. We're going to go towards the left of where it crosses, which is here. We're going to go to the right of where it crosses, which is here. And then we're going to select on the actual position. There we go, 2.80.